Our next speaker is a surfer, and not only on the waves, I think he also surfs the sky, because every time I speak with him, he's in another continent. He's been a great help for me during making the program for our location-based entertainment summit tomorrow and on Friday. He's the world's leading authority on location-based VR business. And he's a true innovator, Bob Cooney.
Holy shit.
Bob,
yeah.
Tomorrow and Friday we have the LBVR Summit.
Yep.
Is there something in particular you look out for there, or you want to...
For them or for me?
Yeah, well, for you.
Yeah, look, I think that there's some really interesting questions that when I talk to operators who are actually investing in VR, what they're interested in, and some of the concerns that they have, stuff like technological obsolescence, IP licensing, how the studio's working, how do you slice the pie up. I think there's some really interesting questions we're going to be delving into with some industry experts, and I'm hoping the conversations will be controversial and exciting.
Yeah, let's hope so. Okay, yeah. I'll leave the stage for
you. Awesome, thank you so much. So, wow, this is amazing. So I'm just going to, if you guys could all smile for me. I want to get a picture, because this is, I don't know how to use this stupid camera. So, all right, everybody smile. 1, 2, 3. Awesome. And then I have to do the selfie. So, okay, cool. Thank you. Thanks for indulging me. So, I have been known to drop an F-bomb occasionally. So, if there are any really sensitive members of the audience, this could be a good time to get a cup of coffee, or go to the John, or check your email. Or whatever, so, because this is an R-rated presentation. There it is. So this talk is called Art, Empathy, and Transformation. But what it's really about is how to make real money in virtual reality. So I want to thank Benjamin and the whole organizers for putting together an amazing event. From a speaker's perspective, this thing has been first class, and I want to thank you guys. Give a round of applause, please, to the organizers of this thing. It's been phenomenal. This year, the Media, Art, and Entertainment Summit is being focused on location-based virtual reality. The industry seems to have pivoted, or a great part of it, to LBVR, especially those that were really focused on consumer VR. Recently at the VRLA conference, I think it was in July, I was there, and my good friend Charlie Fink, who writes for Forbes, sent me a text message saying, I think LBVR is going to have its own trough of disillusionment, because all anybody was talking about was location-based entertainment. And I'm not going to get into why that is. I think other people are covering that, and so I decided to talk about some other things. A little bit about my background. I've been in the location-based entertainment industry for about 30 years. I started one of the first laser tag companies in the world in 1990 called LaserStorm. We were the first company to apply movie IP to laser tag. We did Stargate laser tag, and we did an X-Men Danger Room representation of laser tag with Marvel before they got really crazy big and expensive. And I was lucky enough before the internet hype to take a company public on the NASDAQ, which back then was a big thing. I also helped launch some of the most successful VR arcade products that we've seen so far. A product called Virtuality, I helped bring to market in 92, 93, 94 with a company called Edison Brothers Mall Entertainment, who I partnered with at LaserStorm, and we opened laser tag and virtual reality arcades in malls in the early 90s. And then I helped launch a company called Global VR, which was the first really successful commercial VR arcade game. It was called the VR Vortex. There was a game called Beachhead 2000. Those of you that were old enough probably saw it in arcades around the world. There were thousands of them sold, and they made a lot of money for a lot of operators. More recently, I've helped launch Zero Latency out of Australia, and they have a warehouse-scale free roam VR system. They've just opened their 20th location, which is in London, and they're in 4 continents. And then last year, I worked with a company called Hollowgate, which launched at IAAPA in Orlando and sold about 70 systems on the show floor, which, to my knowledge, is one of the best product launches for a new company in the amusement industry, certainly since I've been around. I also just wrote a book, and it's called Real Money from Virtual Reality, the Entrepreneur's Edition, and the focus of this book is for companies looking to launch VR products into location-based entertainment. It's getting really crowded, and this basically distills my 25 years of experience into a $25 book which is $1 a year, which I think is really reasonable. And that actually is a really good segue to this concept of art and money. And so, and I think art and money have a really interesting relationship. And it's really, really illustrated by the recent Banksy girl with balloon painting that he actually shredded himself by remote control during an art auction at Sotheby's, where as the gavel was coming down on $1 million plus auction, he shredded the painting. And by some experts claim that that actually doubled the value of the painting, which I think is really interesting. Like, what else but art could you destroy and have it increase in value by 100% instantly, right? And so I think that art and money have an interesting relationship. And art, and Banksy specifically, you know, his thing, he's like the ultimate fuck you artist, right? I mean, his art comes from within. And an artist's job is to create something that doesn't exist from inside them and put it out into the world and have it create an emotional reaction in the viewer. And I think he's a great example of that. And it's not about the money. And sometimes art leads to money, but it's rarely the primary intention of the artist is to make money in what I think most of us would call true art. Now, nothing against Michael Bay, but he knows how to make money. And you would question whether or not his films are art, but he understands his audience well enough to have sold $3.2 billion worth of tickets to his movies. And you could debate the artistic qualities of Michael Bay's content over and over and over again, but there's $3.2 billion reasons why he's been successful. And just a bit of personal note, I recently went to the Louvre 2 weeks ago, and I wanted to see the art from my favorite Renaissance artists, Leo and Mikey and Donnie and Raph. And so that was my purpose for going there. We all get our own things out of art, right? And that was my intention for going. Now, I have a good friend, his name's Joshua Ben Paskowitz, and he's an artist. He's an up-and-coming artist. He's in San Clemente, California. And about a couple of years ago, I wanted to help him get a leg up in the world. So and he was a struggling artist, and I really loved his art, and I loved him, and I said, all right, I'm going to invest in a studio gallery for him and to help him get his art into the world. And it wasn't an investment to get a financial return. To me, I did lose tens of thousands of dollars, or invested tens of thousands of dollars is what it cost me. I don't consider it a loss because the gains I got were not financial or monetary, but there were gains for me personally. And I believe I was making the world a better place. And Josh paints waves, right? Now, he does not give a single fuck about what people want, right? What he loves is waves. He grew up the youngest son of 9 kids of a guy named Doc Paskowitz. Those of you that are in the surf community might have heard of him. Like one of the first iconoclasts in the surf industry. He was a doctor, a Stanford-educated physician in the 50s. And in the 50s, he realized the medical establishment was about selling drugs and not actually making people well. So he basically gave the whole medical industry a fuck you, threw away his degree, took off in a 24-foot camper, met a Mexican woman, had 9 kids, and surfed the Americas. And so all of his kids are these amazing Renaissance men. They're artists and painters and musicians and stuff like that. And Josh will continue to be a struggling artist because he's painting from within. Now, Weiland, on the other side, is a commercial artist, right? And he paints whales and shit that people really like to put on their walls. And I think last count, he did about $100 million a year in revenue selling his version of art, which is very commercial, and he understands the innate needs of his audience and what it takes to get them to part with their dollars. Now, the LA Weekly recently said that Weiland is to the art scene what One Direction is to music. And so you could debate his value to the art community all day long, but he's doing $100 million a year in revenue. And so what does this all have to do with virtual reality, right? Chris Milk, who many of you might know, is an artist and a filmmaker and a videographer. And in 2015, he gave a TED Talk where he said virtual reality is a machine that can make us more human. And that led to this thing called the empathy machine. And he was talking about the power of VR to create moving experiences, right? And he created a video experience with the United Nations whose design was to get a bunch of heartless fuckers to care about the Syrian refugee crisis, right? And he was really successful. And Nani de la Peña did the same thing at the same time in LA with homeless populations. And she had people literally on the floor crying about homeless people in LA. And so But they didn't have to sell tickets, right? They were creating art, and they were using empathy to connect with their audience, but not in a way that necessarily was going to sell tickets. And not all of us are going to have the luxury of $50 million of venture capital like Chris Milk recently raised to go and do our life's work and to change the world. Some of us actually have to sell tickets. And so in order to do that, I propose that you have to start with the audience. And another approach of using empathy is to actually gain a really, really deep and true understanding of the deepest values of the audience and design experiences that truly, truly resonate with them. And it's actually the exact opposite of art, because in art, we're taking it from the inside out. My proposal is, in this case, we need to design from the outside in, and we need to really understand the audience. Art is the truest expression of the artist. And if we want to make real money from virtual reality, though, we really need to express what the audience wants to see and what they're willing to pay for. So the largest audience on the planet are millennials. Thank God they're about to take over the world from those of us boomers who totally fucked it up. And I thank you all for doing that and hopefully getting me off the hook. It's been well documented that millennials spend lots of money on things like coffee and avocado toast and music festivals. But what is less documented is why. And I've done a lot of research recently with my partner, Kylie Savage from Huddle, which is a human-centered design firm, about what their values are. And understanding the values of the audience is the key to designing experiences that actually will make money. So I'm the last of the boomers, okay? I was born in '64. Our values were work-centric. We were about making money and buying a house and spending more money than we made to drive, the economy through massive consumerism. And then also finding a wife that we could project our unmet parental needs on, and having 2.3 kids that we could send to colleges that we couldn't afford so they could get jobs at Starbucks being baristas. Millennials have a drastically different value set. And every generation manifests differently in the world, right? I mean, that's the way humanity works. But in this case, the differences seem really, really, really diverse. This generation is about meaning over money. They value community over self. And most importantly, they value experiences over possessions. And that's what you need to care about. Now, I'm going to go a little bit into a millennial rat hole to use it as an example of understanding values or misunderstanding values. So millennials are the first of what may be several generations who are looking at life in a drastically different way. They grew up during the Great Recession, all right? And that informed many of their deep belief structures. One of those is distrust. Millennials are the most distrusting generation of our lifetime. A survey showed that only 19% of millennials agreed with the statement, most people can be trusted. That's half as many as baby boomers. And this is what happens when you grow up in the heart of a global financial crisis, where your friends are losing their homes, your father's on the verge of losing his job, and there's immense stress and strife around your whole coming up. When you grow up as a kid, this is Maslow's hierarchy of deep needs. Safety and security is that base need, right? It's the thing that you need. And for kids to feel safe, they need to have food and shelter. And when your parents are in danger, or your friends are losing their homes, your parents are in danger of losing their homes, and that's what's being talked about at the dinner table, it actually has a deep, deep, deep effect on kids. And so it is any wonder that they're distrustful. So empathy is a really powerful tool, and we know it can be used to change people's perspectives. It's also the tool that human-centered designers use to understand the values and innate needs of a customer or an audience. Now, I can go on for hours talking about millennial values and where they might have come from, but what's important to understand is that their values are different, and lots of potential audiences have different values than you might assume. By dismissing millennials as self-absorbed, lazy, unmotivated, you're basically uninformed or lacking empathy yourself. And that's not a judgment, it's just an observation that's worth some reflection, all right? If your job is in any way at all involved in creating entertainment experiences, that mindset severely limits your ability to understand your audience. And the reason I use the millennial market as an example is because it's the one that's really causing the entire location-based entertainment industry to be disrupted. And I don't think it's going to stop with millennials, and I don't think it's going to stop with location-based entertainment. So casinos are a great example of this. So casinos have filled the floor with tens of thousands of hundreds of thousands of machines that millennials refuse to play. And is it any wonder? They have trust issues. Right? Why would they play them? What they are doing, though, is they're going to nightclubs for amazing experiences. So XS, Hakkasan, Omnia each did over $100 million in revenue last year. They'll put 2,000 to 3,000 people in a night who will spend $800 on a bottle of Grey Goose. It's not the money. It's about the total experience. Millennial couples aren't going to movies either. When they do go, they opt for luxury theaters. And where the popcorn's free, but they'll drop $125 on a gourmet burger, truffle fries, and a bottle of Pinot Noir. Right? So it's not the money, it's the experience. Now, I love this quote. Some theater operators think it's about the seats, which I freaking love. So I love this quote from Jeff Bach at Exhibitor Relations. If you're going to pay $20 for a ticket, you want luxury chairs. Theaters are providing the ultimate experience and comfort that people just can't get at home. Sorry, Jeff. Who of us don't have chairs that are more comfortable than even a luxury theater in our living rooms? The fact that theater operators think that people want luxury chairs is crazy. The fact that we were forced to sit in airline coach seats for 2 hours for decades to see a first-run movie is actually appalling. And I'm glad that that whole industry is now waking up. It's not about the seats, it's about the food, it's about the drink, it's about the whole experience. And this is something that the VR community needs to start to understand and start to design for. So you guys have all heard of the experience economy. It was Pine and Gilmore came up with this in a paper in 1998. And they basically said that successful businesses must orchestrate memorable events for their customers with the memories themselves becoming the products. So this actually is Instagram. Instagram is people taking pictures of their experiences and turning them into products that they can share with their friends. Now, boomers call this narcissism, right? But if you understand the values of the audience and why they're doing it, it has nothing to do, well, maybe there's a little bit of narcissism in there, I'm not gonna do it, right? But that's not the prime driver of the success of social networks like it's about sharing, turning experiences into products that can be shared. Now, they also posited that the next thing after the experience economy was gonna be the transformation economy. This is like in 98, all right? And since 2013, over 55% of almost $2 trillion of luxury products and services were in experiences. That's $1 trillion worth of luxury experiences spent, and a lot of that are on transformational experiences rooted in health and wellness. So Nike is the poster child of this for consumer brands. So what they do is they've created these apps and software and experiences where they promise people that if you use our stuff, we will help you transform your life. And they encourage people to sign up via the app for local running events and coaching and all kinds of things on a global basis. And they're absolutely crushing it by doing this. So it's not just about the experiences, so it's the transformation experiences that actually drive it. And I'm sorry I used this photo. I know it's been used like 1 million times, but I keep going back to it. But it's hard to be transformed just by watching. And this is where VR comes in. Okay, so people need to feel like they're a part of the experience if they're going to be transformed. You can't do it from watching, and that's the opportunity that we all have. So a compelling VR experience can absolutely be transformative, but only if the experience creators, and I'm hoping that's you guys in this room, have a solid understanding of the audience's values. Mark Thurston, Austrian psychologist, wrote, "Values and ideals are the starting point for any personal transformation. Nothing is more important than to have a clear sense of core values. It really needs to mean something at a deep level to the audience." But instead of designing for values, what do? We design focus on technology. Because that makes sense, like that's what we love. Everybody in this room, part of the reason we're here, not everybody, but most of us are here because we're fascinated with the technology. But there's a problem with that. Ray Kurzweil basically built models that show we're doubling the rate of progress on technology evolution every decade. And in the 21st century, we're going to make 20,000 years of progress compared to the 20th century. And so when you design for technology, you can't keep up. When you design for values which move much more slowly, your designs, your inventions, your manifestations of your art, of your creativity actually can last longer. So you can be on the hamster wheel of technology, or you can design something based on values that have meaning to people that can last and transcend the technological evolution. When you do that, you get something like Topgolf. How many of you here have done Topgolf? Do it. Like, go find one. They're now blowing up in Europe. They're all over the Americas. They're moving to Asia. So Topgolf it's a great example of an experience that uses technology, but you don't know it. So basically, they've embedded RFID tags in golf balls and put sensors across this giant field, and you're told to hit targets, and you hit the golf ball, and if you get it in the target, you get points. And they've gamified a driving range. 70% of the people that play Topgolf don't actually identify as golfers. They've created a social experience, and they've used golf as an excuse for it. And they don't call it RFID ball, right? They call it Topgolf. And they're not marketing the technology. If you weren't a technologist, you wouldn't even know there was technology in there. It's hitting in a freaking golf ball. And this is where VR needs to step up the game. It's about the whole experience. It's about the food. It's about the drink. It's about the socialization. It's not just about the second act, which is the VR thing. Where's the pre-show? Where's the post-show? Where does the story begin and end? We need to stop thinking so much about the technology and start thinking about the entire experience. A friend of mine, Kevin Backus, who's the head of strategy for Dave & Buster's, gave a great example last year at the Foil event in Las Vegas. He said that when video games went to big screens, we didn't call them big screen games. We still call them games like Prop Cycle and Alpine Racer and House of the Dead and Time Crisis. It wasn't about the technology. The display medium is just a display medium, and that's what VR is. It's a display medium. And if we get that right, I think it enables our ability to create transformational entertainment experiences that people will line up for. Maybe we have a chance to change their lives and change the world, and actually you can make real money from virtual reality. So I've written a white paper, actually I've co-authored a white paper with Kylie Savage on this that goes a lot deeper into the design research behind understanding audiences and how to design experiences for millennials or any audience, really. And you can get it at my website at bobcooney.com/innovate. And I really hesitate to put this up there because it brings a little bit of bile up in my throat because it feels really douchey. But a lot of people have asked, so I'm actually going to be signing the book if anybody cares at lunch, and I'm going to just turn that off now. And I thank you.